Welcome back everyone, we're out on the Speed Triple 1200 RS today. Unfortunately no mic on the exhaust because I didn't realise that you can't pop the seat off with your key. You need a Torx wrench, or it's got a Torx head bolt. Obviously I don't have one of those with me. So we'll have to rely on the helmet mic, which is a bit of a shame because it's got this exhaust control valve that opens up as you wind the throttle on. Sounds lovely, but hopefully we'll get enough of it. Let me just check that GoPro mount isn't going to put a dent in the tank at full lock. It's close, but it should be alright. Just stopped in Monmouth at the petrol station for a bit of lunch, and then I will carry on over towards Abergavenny, but I'll turn back just before there. It looks like some good roads, but yeah, I need to make sure I get time to film a review, and also the weather's looking changeable as ever. A good idea to get it in the bag as early as possible so that I can be flexible around the weather, but I just wanted to get a few more miles in on it because I've been properly enjoying it so far. Now this big 1200 triple doesn't love being at 2000 revs around town. It feels a bit buzzy or lumpy. So if you can, you're better off giving it a little bit of gas and then slipping the clutch to smooth it out. But you know, once you're moving at 30 like this in second, everything smooths out plenty. It just feels as you'd expect for a lovely, smooth triple. The more I ride this bike, the more I'm enjoying it. You know, it certainly is a bit of a handful. The throttle response is about as lively as it gets. But once you've had an hour or two in the saddle and you fine-tune your throttle application, you can just start to enjoy everything that it has to offer. I won't go through all the specs, but you know, we're talking 180 horsepower peak on this bike, which is a huge increase versus the previous generation, which was about 150, I think. They cut a bit of weight as well. I think it's 189 kilos wet, which is slender as it comes for this genre of bike. And then of course you got your Öhlins front and rear, Brembo style Emma calipers, radial Brembo master cylinder on braided hoses, so everything you'd expect for your 15 grand. Woo! I don't know how much you can hear that extra bass from the exhaust as you wind the throttle on. It's not abrupt. I remember asking Stuart Wood, who's the chief engineer, I think, at Triumph when they launched this bike, about that valve, and he said it gradually opens with the throttle application. And so yeah, it's not like an immediately significant or stepped change in the exhaust note, but you can certainly tell that you just get more boom out of it Whoa! I hope you can hear that. I mean, you can either ride this bike just in second and it feels lively as anything, or you can knock it up into third and it's a little more sedate and appropriate probably for road speeds. I did try creating a custom rider mode earlier where I set the ABS and traction control to road and then the throttle map to rain, just to see what that felt like, you know, a bit more timid. But unfortunately the rain mode caps peak power at 100 PS, and what I kind of was looking for was smoother throttle in the first quarter of a turn. Where are we going here? Straight up. Without sacrificing that top end, so you could give it a good wrench when you wanted some more power. But unfortunately, it kind of removes that top end if you put it into the rain map. So I've just been finding that the road mode, I mean, who knew? Trying to know what they're doing with their riding modes. Is definitely the best setup for this kind of riding. Braking is just like one finger required. You can adjust the master cylinder as well, the ratio. Settings are 21, 21, 19, as per usual with these Brembo master cylinders. Got to be on the lookout for gravel on this road. Look, big, thick tracks of it down the middle from all the, you know, farm vehicles you get out here. Yeah, so one finger's definitely enough on this bike on the front brakes. It's got a link braking system as well, so perhaps that adds to the sense of braking power. So it's giving you a bit of rear brake when you're on the front, but the rear brake pedal is independent, so you can still drag a bit of rear brake if you're doing low speed maneuvers or whatever. And then the suspension, I mean, everything came backed off when the bike was dropped off. So I don't know if that was the person who had it before me, or if it was the Triumph engineer that was setting it up for the type of riding that they know that I'd be doing, because, you know, I'm not doing track or anything like that. But either way, I got the Allen keys out to adjust the fork and sort of compared it to the PDF manual that you can download online for any Triumph bikes, actually. Here we go. All right. Woo! And they've got some recommended settings for the compression and rebound for different types of riding. So for track riding, obviously it's a lot firmer. Then there's a regular road setting, and then there's a comfort setting, and everything was backed off to comfort, which might be a response to the initial reviews that came back. I didn't go on the launch for this bike, it was about a month ago, but I believe that some people said it was firm at the rear for sure, and generally quite a focused ride. And so I don't know, like I say, if whoever had it before me sort of backed it all off, or whether whether Triumph have done that. Either way though, I don't really mind. I think it's only fair to set a bike up for the type of riding it's going to be doing, and it feels alright to me actually. I probably wouldn't want it any firmer than this. I don't mind something that errs on the side of comfort for road riding, especially when you're doing little B roads and back lanes like this where the surfaces are less frequently maintained, let's say. But I think on the shock, the comfort settings, certainly for the Rebound, is like completely backed off, so it won't go any softer, and the fork and the compression on the shock are 20 clicks off, so they won't go much further. So it definitely is something to consider if you favour a cushy ride. Something like the CB1000R might be more your cup of tea if you want it to be soft, especially on the shock. Oh, good God. This bike is rapid. But realistically, Triumph are always going to favour handling over comfort. I mean, it's one of their big selling points. Now, regular viewers will remember that it's not that long ago, about a week, let's say, and I had the... Oh my gosh, am I really going to go down here on this bike? It's like green laning nearly. Yeah, it wasn't long ago that I had the KTM 1290 Super Ducar, which of course is a direct competitor for this bike. 180 horsepower as well. Similarly well set up in terms of riding equipment. I'd say all the lean sensitive electronics are fairly similar as well. Oh, good God. It's a gravel road. The big difference between the two bikes would be the engine, of course, with it being a V-twin on the KTM and a triple on this bike. There's a lot more growl to the KTM, whereas this is a smoother feel to it. It's definitely got character, and of course a triple has its own sound as well, but this feels smoother and a bit more refined because of it. But I'd also say I think it might be down to that throttle response, but this feels super lively, and for top end like rush and craziness, I think this might edge it for me. The peak power's the same, but obviously the character of the way that it feels and the way that it delivers it is going to be different. Yeah, this Triumph just feels a bit nuts, and I guess that's what you want from a super naked bike. You know, one thing I do really like about this bike that might not be immediately apparent from the spec sheet is that it just feels a bit more stable than the KTM, for example, where I think I said when I got on that bike and headed back down the motorway to bring it home, I did notice that versus something like the 890 Adventure that I was on when I picked it up, it just was so noticeably more twitchy. And I just had a couple of situations where I was, 30 meters back from a lorry or a van on the motorway, and that buffeting just made the bike feel it was just not confidence inspiring. I don't really get that with this bike, and I did have to get on the motorway to get out here, of course. Being over in Bristol, you got to come across the bridge. I mean, even the bridge from Bristol to Wales, or vice versa if you so wish, that can be sometimes a little bit hairy because you get a crosswind, and then when you pass the main supports for the bridge, you get a bit of shelter from the wind, so you've got a side wind, and then it cuts off for like 10 meters and then immediately switches back on, and it can make things still feel a little unstable. But this bike handles it really nicely, which did kind of surprise me because the KTM has a steering damper fitted, as do many other bikes. Even like the R9T that I borrowed recently, the Urban GS, even the scrambler sort of take on that platform, comes with a steering damper, but Triumphs generally don't. And look, there's other stuff that goes into it, of course, the geometry and all that. But just on the face of it, I would have expected the KTM to be the one that felt less twitchy. Oh, I love that sound. Oh my god! I nearly headbutted a bird. That's today's wildlife hazard. Out of the way. Woo! You can easily get the front wheel up when you get it up to what, 8,000 revs. That's just a mil more of throttle travel. Granted, I'm going a bit uphill, but it'll pop up easy. Just as an aside, I assume a lot of the people that are subscribed to this channel are also listeners of the podcast, but if not, go check it out, the Full Tank Motorcycle Podcast. Probably Spotify's your best app for playing it back. And it's just a, 1 hour chat that I shoot every couple of weeks or so with Tim, who is of the YouTube channel Rarefied Road. We recorded one yesterday, and I just thoroughly enjoyed it. Top bants with Tim, as always. And we talked about the new R7, which has been quite controversial on my channel in terms of the naming and the fact that it's essentially a, 72 horsepower MT-07. One slightly tricky thing about these Super Nakeds, I mean, with the KTM, the dash was mounted here, but even on this bike, it's pretty low. You might expect it to be mounted on the top yoke, I suppose, there, but it's really sort of on the headlights at the front, and it's just so low you can't really see in your peripheral view how quickly you're going. So I might be doing a lot of editing when I get home today. Hopefully not too much. I've been trying to keep it sensible. I mean, that's the triple in a nutshell, isn't it? Do you hear that? Right up to the top. Just not struggling anywhere in the rev range. I've certainly enjoyed myself today out riding this bike. I don't really know what it says about the bike or the route. It's just a nice blend of, different types of roads and speeds, and almost certainly this is kind of like overpowered, but I don't know, it'd be interesting to do the same route on my Trident. I've always said what I like about that bike is that you can really, give it a bit of a hide in at road speeds. This is a different kind of fun. That isn't there with the Trident. It's more of a like satisfying riding experience of getting the most out of it. These kinds of bikes, it's just thrill rather than satisfaction. Anyway, hope you've enjoyed it. We've got a bit of a break from press bikes in the next week or two. I need to catch up on some editing, but almost certainly I'll borrow a couple of dealer bikes. I'm not sure what's next. Hoping to get out on the Moto Guzzi V7. I want to try one of the Aprilia 660s as well. Don't care if it's the RS or Tuono, really. S1000R. I mean, if I've done the KTM and the Speed Triple, the S1000R seems like a, obvious choice next. Let me know what you want to see anyway on the channel down below, and I'll try and hook it up. Thanks for watching. See you next time.